Hello guys, and welcome back to Supreme Ruler Ultimate. Today we're starting a brand new Cold War playthrough. This is a PvP between me and Shibi. If you couldn't guess by looking at these flags, he, just like our last PvP, suggested who would play which country. I will be playing the United States of America, and he will be playing the all-dominating, at the time, USSR. He will be very, very powerful within the first, let's say, 15, 20 years of this, and I have a good chance to beat him if I can drag the Cold War on long enough from then. Alright, so now that we're in the game, we gotta do a bunch of things just to get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is max out my taxes, because that's just how I play this game. It's a play style, it works for me. It's not the most efficient thing to do with a democratic country, but you know, if you've been watching me, you know this is usually the first thing I do. It helps manage some other things. We've locked everything here. I always forget to lock something at the very beginning, so I want to make sure that I actually end up doing that. I like to mess with these sliders at the very start as well. Let's turn this up as well. Definitely get my research spending way up there. Alright, so we're going to turn on all this production here. However, one thing I'm going to do at the very, very start, we have 30 aircraft production. I'm going to not scrap, but I'm going to turn off 2/3 of them, so it's more like 10. That will reduce our total capacity by a lot, which will make other countries like us more. It will make us produce less, mean I can save on some resources. And generally speaking, air is just not that useful, except in certain situations. It will be useful, but it's not so useful that, you know, I want it right now. We do not want to be selling any military goods. I'm going to pay whatever fucking price I need to essentially just stockpile this crap. I'm also going to lock off uranium because I have a limited amount of uranium and I don't want my AI messing with it. We are going to have a whole bunch of research to go over. Now let me just untick the game a little bit so we hopefully don't run into any synchronization issues, which we usually do. Usually I enable a lot of my military stuff, but this time I've chosen not to, and in fact, let me just select everything I can grab a hold of right here and tell it to reserve just to save on money right now. I will bring them out later. Lock you for military spending. I will bring these dudes out later, just not right now. Right now I have something else to do. Speaking of things to do, as you can see, we're on the slowest speed, so it's not going to move too fast right now. But Vietnam is in the First Indochina War. And if you don't know what the First Indochina War is, and you think the only war over Vietnam was the Vietnam War, oh boy, that's like watching the second Star Wars movie, but not the first or the third. And yes, there were 3 Indochina Wars. I suggest you look them up because they are pretty interesting. This is the First Indochina War. This is France's land, and North Vietnam is rebelling, and it's France's job to stop them. The AI is not very good at dealing with this, the French AI, but the North Vietnamese AI is no longer very good at taking the whole thing by itself. So, me and Shibi here, actually we already made a deal, because we tried making this playthrough already, where we made the deal, but we had some bugs and had to restart it. We didn't get very far, but we made a deal. I am going to stay out of North Vietnam. The reason I offered this, in terms of Vietnam, is because I know that at the very beginning of the game, he has a whole bunch of scripts basically set up to transfer military goods to Vietnam, and so does China, but mostly him. So we're going to see North Vietnam's military goods inflate. And so I offered that because I thought he would find it attractive to not have to waste his military goods like this. And so, well, that is exactly what we're going to do. In exchange, he's going to stay out of South Korea. And now, these are a little unfavorable terms, because taking out North Korea isn't so hard, North Vietnam, because they're predictable. I know how they work. They only have their guerrillas. The guerrillas are really good in the jungle, really terrible anywhere else. I can contain them very easily, but he can also help them. He could also help North Korea. I do know at the very start, if I leave this area alone, North Korea will destroy South Korea. So I made a deal for him to stay out of Korea because I'd rather Korea live, if any of them. I'm going to use Thailand as a buffer when it comes to Vietnam, because I know that Thailand can probably actually hold them off. When it comes to Korea, you know, when South Korea falls, this whole little peninsula or whatever it's called just sticking out of here is lost. And I'd rather have it not lost if possible. I plan on doing 2 things to help them, but we'll get to that later. I also am going to go around and get a series of government support set up so that I can try to make as many allies as I can, because we are operating on a sphere victory, meaning where everybody falls on this is very important. Realistically, we still can't win without actually killing him, our PvP player, but it means that our sphere becomes a very important part that can be strengthened or weakened depending on our actions. I want to get as many allies as possible, so just note, anyone that's already blue or leaning blue, I'm basically going to go ahead and support. And a lot of neutrals as well. I'm going to go support a lot of neutrals. So this is going to take some time, and I'm probably going to skip through most of it. Also, just to read these little events for you, this is the ceasefire of the civil war between China and Taiwan. This is over. This war ends pretty much at the very start of the scenario. Oh, I got a little, got more little units over here. And they're just flying around. Can you go reserve like I told you to? I guess I might not have told you guys to do this. But that's fine.
Seems good so far. Not getting any desync. How about you?
I'm good. I just have a lot of stuff to set up. There's some countries I'm not going to try to befriend, like things that are already leaning red especially. There's also countries that I know that are historically going to be invaded, like Egypt by Israel, that I'm not going to befriend. I'm actually going to put my money behind Israel, but that's a mid-50s thing and we'll handle that when we get to it. One country in South America that I could not really try to befriend very easily is going to be Argentina, because later in the Cold War they're scripted to attack the Falklands, which means one way or another, one of my allies is going to get attacked by them. I'm going to try to only expand into countries like Venezuela, which are already red, rather than, you know, attacking them, because diplomatically, if we compare their relations, they're fully aligned with Warsaw at the start of the game anyway, so there's not a lot of harm in attacking them. The blues won't care very much, and the less reds on the map, the better, and that's how I'm going to basically choose who it is that I'm going to attack, as you can see. I'm going to try to befriend mostly everyone else. I kind of want to take Mexico, but if I can ally with Mexico and keep him out of Mexico, that works just as fine, and it allows me the ability to go intervene through more of the world. I'm going to make a fortress out of America as time goes on anyway, so I don't think we should encounter much problems or much of a situation of me needing to expand like that. We already know how Cuba's going to go. I think I'll leave Cuba alone for now, but we know how Cuba's gonna go. Another event that happened was the atomic bomb test. This is just the Soviet Union getting an atomic bomb. Naturally, I'll condemn that. And then there's just historical events about sending aid to Greece and Turkey, and NATO being formed with its limited members currently. NATO in its weakest state ever. I'm just gonna assume that he's gonna try to ally everybody that's red, and I'm going to operate and make alliances with that assumption in mind. I'm also gonna enable the cabinet priority decrease unit readiness for our military, because it will help keep costs down, which is something that's going to be important in the future. I also need to go ahead and start setting up research. While I am setting all this up, I'm sure there's an ally somewhere that has some kind of research, that I don't have. In this case, not an ally, but a friend. I want to go ahead and definitely purchase some research from them, get us as advanced as we possibly can be, and I'm going to want to keep an eye out for anything more like that. The further ahead I can get, the further behind he will get.
Yeah, that's a lot of research you gotta go through.
Yes, it is. It's the most obnoxious thing about playing as the US is there's so much stuff to sort through. Last time we tried recording too, I spoke as I went through all of it. This time I'm just gonna summarize it because it's easier, but it's still taking me forever to go through it.
Yeah, France has the bill cap penalty now. Nice. I was able to get out of that shit.
They have one milcat penalty. I have the other. Hey, don't ha-ha me. You're only 2,000 deployed troops away from getting it yourself.
I know.
You disabled, like, a lot of your military production, huh?
Yeah, some of it.
Oh, yeah. You disabled, like, holy shit. Don't you start out with, like, 40 land productions and like 14 naval and like 20 air?
Something around there, yeah.
You disabled like half your military production.
I'm working, like, tweaking. Tweaking it, there you go.
I see.
Yes, tweaking it. Based on the situation at hand, I will adjust accordingly.
At least for now, it means that his power will be withheld. The less he produces in the early game, the better for us, because he starts out stronger than us, especially in terms of land capabilities. So this is only a good thing. What are these units? These are all infantry, some mounted infantry here or there. Recon, some tanks. I'm gonna tell all this stuff to reserve too now that I think about it. I don't care too much about protecting Japan. Hell, they'll protect themselves, and I want these to be reserved because of something that I plan on doing later. And yes, I'm still going through research, so the game is still on a slow speed. It's not on very slow, but it's on slow. But I'm still going through plain research, but I'm almost done.
Yeah, fuck it.
Fuck what?
I'm just gonna put some more stuff back online.
Okay.
Screw it.
My research is done being set up, so let's go over what I did with you guys. So, already you can see I have some units being researched. The M75 is a infantry carrier, which is going to replace my current LVT-2 maybe. I'm also researching something to succeed it already. I'm researching the Viking class patrol ship to replace all my other patrol ships. There's not a lot of good US-based patrol ships, so I'm going with a worldwide design because it's going to be pretty good. I'm researching this magnificent piece of artillery to replace my World War II artillery if possible. I got all sorts of researching, such as military production level 3, Air Force production 53. I have set into the research pretty much everything for the space race, because the space race in this game is important in that whoever gets ahead of it, and especially whoever finishes it first, gets a lot of influence in the world. And with that influence, I can turn more nations to my side. If more nations are on my side, there's more blues in the world, he will be more cornered. Researching the Banshee as my new multi-role plane. We got the Sky Raider. That's going to be my new tactical bomber. There was a Banshee tactical bomber too, I think, but I skipped over it there. Here's the LVT-P5. This is my next infantry carrier after the M75. I'm researching the T-92 light tank as my newest anti-tank. Pretty expensive, but should be pretty damn efficient. I'm also researching here the Neptune as my newest patrol plane. It's got some decent ASW capabilities, some decent all-around capabilities. It can go a fairly good distance as well. I'm researching the H-19 Chickasaw as my current upcoming helicopter. I don't think I really have any helicopters right now as the US, but it's an okay one. It has some bare minimum capabilities to engage. Helicopters were pretty bad at this time, and just having one that can engage ground targets is important. And just for reference, if you haven't looked already, it's 1949. So yeah, helicopters are brand spanking new. Here's the M4A1 Sherman FL-10. This is what I hope to be my next mainline tank, replacing all my World War II tanks. This is the F-102A Delta Dagger. This is a upcoming fighter plane that I wish to potentially get. My upcoming strategic bomber is going to be the B-52B Stratofortress. I've also researched a missile. I am researching some missiles, including a new naval / submarine-based nuke that I can fire as well, because I'm going to be making some more of that. Just to show you what I am making right now, I've narrowed down a lot of older designs into literally just the Rangers and the Amtraks. I don't know why I kept the Rangers here. Well, I know why, but I think that was a dumb choice of me. Let me get rid of that, actually. You can make one if he wants. I'm not currently getting rid of units as I normally would with the arms race. We'll turn that on later in the game, but not now. Not for right now. Right now, I'm keeping the Shermans. Probably going to be mostly making Pershings because they are newer and technically better, but I hope to replace that with the new Shermans as soon as possible. Looks like I didn't quite sort through my anti-tank as well as I could have. Either way, once we get the T-92 anti-tank, it'll just replace all of this crap anyway, so it doesn't matter. I narrowed it down to a 1943 AA gun, towed, nothing special, nothing expensive. It'll be easy to keep around. As for ships, I'm sticking with the submarine, the Barracuda, right now. Capital ships, I've kind of just narrowed down to this. I expect my AI to entirely make me some Iowas, which is generally what I want him to do. I've narrowed the escort ships down to the Coney Fletcher. Pretty good escort ship here. And my patrol ship is currently narrowed down to the Flower, which will be replaced by the Viking. Taking a look at South Korea, who will be fighting a war in around June, we should help them get their hands on something better that they could make, rather than just this old pre-World War... Oh my god, this is pre-World War II infantry, yeah. we need to help them as soon as we possibly can with getting their hands on something better. So I'm trying not to send them anything that requires any technologies. I don't expect a lot of payment for this stuff, but I'm giving them my LVT-4 Amtrak, my newest infantry carrier type unit. That should really bring them up. They probably won't have enough time to make very many of them, but I hope that they can make some. I don't want to sell them any technologies, honestly, because I don't know how this is going to go. I'm selling them the Benham escort ship, the Salmon class submarine. I'm selling them the Brooklyn Capital ship, the M8 Greyhound Recon, very good, up to date. It's because I plan on advancing so much very quickly anyway, that even my most up-to-date stuff doesn't have a lot of meaning for me right now if I could be giving it to somebody else. I'm giving them access to the Pershing tank, which is probably the tank that I'm making right now, honestly. And I believe the same AA gun that I'm making right now. They'll give me 14 million for it. That's not a lot, but I don't need money from them. I just need them to start making this stuff and to start making good units that will keep them up to date. That is not what they have. They only have one land production right now, unfortunately. But if I help them win this war, they'll get access to a total of 3 land military production and 4 naval. And if they're pumping out at least these units, that will make them a lot more capable of a deterrent and a threat and an access point into where I'm going. And I still have more plans to talk about with South Korea, but I have to go back to organizing and clearing up all these designs. So now on the topic of air, I've narrowed down my current interceptors down to the F-86A Sabre. For tactical bombers, I've narrowed it down to the F-84E Thunderjet. For multi-roles, I'm not sure how to narrow it down because these are all good at different things. So I'm leaving it at these 3 for the time being until I get my replacements. For the strategic bomber, I've narrowed it down to 2, the B-50D Super Fortress and the Peacemaker. The Peacemaker, which is like a flying mini nuke in itself, so I definitely want some Peacemakers for sure. Patrol planes, I've narrowed down to the Mercator because it's a pretty good plane. Honestly, some of these things I have, I don't even know if the next things I'll be researching are going to be better. I do sometimes run into that at the beginning of the Cold War, but before we started this, I did a little bit of research at least, just to make sure I wouldn't waste anything too badly. Looks like we're not going to really need the Juneau. We're probably not going to need the Oregon City or anything that comes before it. Oh my god, there's a whole fucking line that comes before it. Realistically, I can just narrow this all the way down to the Iowa and be fine. The Alaska class is okay. It's a lot cheaper. I'll leave it there for the time being. And with that, we finally have all of our research and all of our production set up. Oh god, for at least the time being anyway. Now to go into some more economic stuff. I'm going to scrap every mid factory that I have. These mid-sized factories, they add to the economy. They're not efficient. They don't make enough goods for what they cost. So I like to redo them. I definitely like to redo them. So we're naturally going to get rid of all of these consumer mids factories as well. We make more than enough consumer mids. Our infrastructure spending should still be bringing the quality level up, which means our total amount of production will be going up as well. Let's get rid of those cons mids. We also have ind mids as well. I should probably get rid of those as well if I'm being honest. Especially right now at the beginning of the game while there's a good supply of industry goods on the market. So let's go ahead and scrap all those mid-sized factories. We can get rid of anything that's outlying as well. Coal small, hydro small. Yeah, hydro small is really, really inefficient, honestly. We should have all the power grid researches already done. So if we want more power, we are just going to have to build it. Petrol small we don't need. I'd like to build hydro if possible and get us off of petrol so I can just sell the petrol. But at the start of the scenario, oil is not going to be very lacking. I'll tell you what is going to be lacking though, rubber. And while we synthesize rubber, getting access to cheap rubber would still be nice. I'm going to get rid of any petrol plants that are on Hawaii just to make room for other things that I could be putting here, like rubber. So I'm going to give this a little moment to scrap, and then we're going to come back here and actually make some rubber. Not a lot of time's gone past. We're at 4.3% inflation. I expect to enter a labor shortage, and because we're going to have so much money, I also just fully embrace it as well. Looks like we're also going to have a shortage on metal ore we have to deal with, and potentially even oil is going to have a shortage. So that's something we're going to figure out at the beginning rather than later on. I'm not going to hunt down non-synthetic rubber like I usually do in these playthroughs. At least not at the moment. I'm fine with synthesizing it. I have more than enough money. I should be able to handle it just fine. But I will, of course, utilize what, well, non-synthesized rubber I have access to right now. This right here is going to be a little bit of an issue if I can't get an engineer on it. Hopefully I can. I have one combat engineer over here in South Korea, so I'm going to send him down to this little island in hopes that I can maybe make rubber there too. I've never utilized that island in my entire life, like ever. And honestly, these dudes should be on their way to reserve as well. Let me tell you something. Let me show you this. This is pre-World War II infantry. And this is the main part of our infantry fighting force that we start out with in this game. It's terrible. This is the kind of shit that South Korea can make. It only takes 46 military goods to build one. It's worth like nothing. It's absolutely worthless. Even if I have arms race on and we start disbanding it like crazy to turn it into military goods, quite frankly, a mids factory probably makes enough by itself to make 10 of these things at a time. It's worthless, so I don't see a point to really cashing it in. One thing we're going to have to continuously work on is getting allies, and so let's get started on that now. I can already get a full formal alliance with Australia. Let's fucking do it. It's always the Aussies that we can count on, in real life and in history. The Aussies and the Brits are America's greatest, longest allies. With the Brits, it's ironic because we fought for independence from them, but let me tell you, the Aussies have always had our backs. There's also some treaties that we don't start out with that we can get with everybody that we're already allied with, and we're going to go ahead and get those because by getting them, we make these countries like us more, we make sure that they're going to like us for longer, and it helps just bring our sphere, direct, like sphere mechanic, and, ooh, I forgot something, I'll fix that, direct and indirect, closer together by relations, and that's something that we definitely want. And I want to ally or defend anybody that is going to be leaning in my sphere, for the record. Anybody and everybody, because with what we have going on right now, spheres are everything. Look at that, we can already get West Germany. I'm sure lowering my military production and also not putting my military out has certainly helped with that. France currently has both. Ooh, let me tell him. Did you see that France currently has the deployed unit milcat penalty?
Yeah, I saw that.
They had the other one, the production milcat penalty. You've actually taken that back. But France now has the actual units deployed milcat penalty, and I find that funny.
C'est la vie.
Can't forget good old Luxembourg here in the treaty train. I think I have yet to get Italy as well, so we will get Italy. Eventually, a lot of our allies are going to start decolonizing, which is something we're going to have to keep our eyes on. We've already gotten our alliances with Australia and West Germany. That's good. We are doing this at a fairly good pace already, just due to my lack of militarization. We got to get as much as we possibly can with Greece and with Turkey. They're probably not going to go for full alliance at the very start here. No, they're not going to go for a full alliance, but we can get everything else, which is going to bring them closer to us, which will make it more likely that we will sooner be able to get this stuff anyway. Israel's another one. I don't know. Okay, they won't take full alliance at the start. I don't actually want full alliance at the start, and I'm honestly going to avoid mutual defense at the start as well, just because I know that they're going to be the aggressors and they're going to attack Egypt, but I want to keep an eye on them. I want to support them in any way I can in being able to take this. The first country I'm going to support in any major way is going to be South Korea, and let me tell you, this is going to be a very bloody conflict. In fact, it's probably going to be a bloodier and harder conflict than fighting Egypt, realistically. Oh, there's roads here in the Cold War. There's not actually roads there in a lot of the settings. Forgot to get Denmark. Let's get all the rest of the treaties with them. And let's take a peek at him right now. We haven't actually looked at him yet so far because I've been so busy just setting everything up. He has one research we don't have, but we seem to be ahead of him on a lot of other things unless he has a non-tradable that I don't have. He's out of military goods because they're all getting sent to Vietnam, so he's probably not actually making a lot of troops or anything right now, thankfully. Even with all his milfabs on, he's probably in a little bit of a rut until those scripts clear up. It looks like he's building a lot of things, maybe. Let's take a look. We don't actually know. Let's start by looking through his resources. He's making one uranium mine. Smart. Some coal plants, some consumer goods. He's making some military goods. Smart. He's making a research center already. Okay, and he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total research centers once this is done. I have 6 research centers. So he'll be 1 research slot behind me when this is done. Is he making any new military stuff? No new military complexes or anything of any kind. Okay, I'm gonna get any and every treaty I can, which is just short of formal alliance with Thailand. Oh, they changed their name from Siam real quickly, because these guys are going to be my big buffer against the North Vietnamese. Once the North Vietnamese guerrillas are out of the jungle, they're basically fucking worthless. Even World War II units can tear them a new one. Let's see, how is this going anyway? It looks like he's not helping them directly, but the guerrillas themselves are very strong. Have chased the French out of the main part of North Vietnam here. There's not a lot of French units even left here, and there's not going to be a whole lot of French anything happening here anyway. There's like one French militia. It's mostly militia and other terrible French units that are over here anyway. Now, to further explain why I traded Vietnam for Korea. Korea becomes one united country if they win. North or South Korea, and they own this whole peninsula, and they are worth an okay amount, at least in relative terms compared to all of Asia. Vietnam, however, if I successfully take out North Vietnam, all that happens is France gets this land, and they retain their colonies over here. This has like no chance to militarize whatsoever, which makes it quite a terrible ally, honestly. North Vietnam can expand, but they can only take French colonies, and France is not going to be that important in Asia, quite honestly, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm putting my money with Korea because, in my eyes, Korea is the one that's going to be worth more. Let's also take a look at Japan here. We can get a full formal alliance with Japan. We're going to want to do that. Japan does not militarize themselves, by the way, by themselves, that I've ever seen. They become a research hub, but they don't militarize themselves, ever. So they're a good money buddy, but they're not going to be a good military friend. At least I can base stuff out of their airfields. They're going to be actually useless in defending themselves. At least if I'm allied with him, he might end up thinking twice about attacking Japan, which is good because Japan is a valuable country to own. I can unfortunately not make them militarized, but later on I can sell them my military units in order to have them defend themselves. Potentially. I'm not going to do that anytime soon, only if I feel like they're under some kind of threat. But as of right now, I have an alliance. And Austria moved to Warsaw Pact leaning. I have a feeling he's working on Austria, because I'm supporting Austria. So there's a good chance he's also working on Austria. Let's look at the diplomatic relations. They're more in favor of my side than his side. Oh, look how much they like him. Oh, I can see what you're doing. Thanks to that diplomatic relations map, I know you're throwing money at Austria. You're throwing loads of money at Austria.
Not that much.
I mean, compared to the money they should have. Yeah, they're already at 2 bill. I can, dude, because, like, I can just go to diplomatic relations, click them, and you're bright green, even though they don't like the rest of your sphere at all. Like, they're not fans of your sphere. They're a mostly neutral country. They liked me a decent amount, but I feel confident that they did not like you, which is how I know you're throwing money at them.
Maybe.
Alright, luckily Austria is a completely demilitarized country, and
Perhaps.
So even if he gets them, it's not going to hurt me too much, and in fact, if he does get them, I'll probably wipe them out eventually. I have a couple contingency plans set up. I have an Eastern European invasion plan, which we'll get to if we get to it. I have plans to dominate the Middle East, but that's on more of a timer. I'm waiting on Israel. For Asia, my entire goal is to just hold him at bay. There's not a lot I can do to stop him in Asia. Asia's his playground, more so than Europe is. I don't know if he realizes this, though. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that.